Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to Living in the Limelight, an Anton Scholl and Friends podcast where we discuss music from the artist and fan perspective. Thanks for listening and enjoy the show. All right, welcome to Living in the Limelight. I'm your host, Anton Scholl, and with me today to talk about music and just Arizona in general, and all the bands that you belong in. A good friend of mine, Mark Johnson.
Hey,
Thank you. Very good.
Good to be here, man.
Thanks for coming out here. Appreciate that. You know, I know it's a taken away from a lot of the stuff that you do as far as all of the bands you're playing in and all the stuff which we will get into. But you are a very busy singer out here, and I see a lot of the stuff you've done. I've seen you play before when you didn't even know I was there. Like at the hideaway, stuff like that. I would just run in. Or do things, you know, just kind of see things play. But for the most part, thank you for being here. Appreciate it. You know. And for musicians, you know, to be up at the crack of noon, you know,
right,
to come out and do something like this is something. So this show is mainly about just finding out what a musician does, how a musician does things, and all of the different things that you do as a musician. Because I think that a lot of the listeners out there are, you know, they're not musicians. And, you know, we want to get people really interested in what the musician does, because when they come to see a show, they just show up.
Right.
You know,
right.
They show up and they see a show, but they don't really understand what has been going on, you know, behind the scenes.
Sure.
And with all of the different types of bands that you play in, which is really kind of how diverse you are, because when we get into that, I think, you know, people will realize as a vocalist, there's a lot of things that we're limited to. You know, so let's first start talking about that. Let's hear about the bands that you're playing in right now.
Okay, so my main band I've been in for a long time has been Lit Up. We was Cover Junkies. We turned into Lit Up, and I can't even tell you, we've been doing that for 13, 14 years. I should know, but we've been doing it a long, long time. And we used to do the 80s hair metal, and that kind of really got me back into the game after my daughter was born. And then we do Rock Addicts. I think we've been doing that for 5-6 years. It's a dual singer band. We do some classic rock, some 80s stuff. Then I do the Motley Crue tribute band, and a lot of those guys are in my Black Crowes tribute band. So those are my 4 projects. I was in an extreme tribute band that was phenomenal. Never got off the ground. Would have been blown people's minds, but COVID came and that kind of fell off the wayside. But that's where I'm at. And I do have a lot of original stuff I've done over the years that just kind of kept to myself more than anything. But
so you haven't put out any of the original music yet?
No, nothing professionally recorded, but a lot of cool stuff with different friends and stuff that's really, really cool.
Sure. So let's talk real quick about each one. So Lit Up, that's the one you've been in the longest?
Right. Yep.
Okay. And that one is all hair bands?
Yeah, it's 80s hair metal. We're very specific.
Hair metal?
You know?
Okay.
Yeah. It's a fun band because we'll do stuff and do the Motley Crue stuff, but then we'll go deep and we do kicks and loudness, and it's really dedicated to people that are into that 80s scene. So you kick out the stuff that everybody knows, and then you pull out something in loudness. You pull out Crocus. It's like, wow.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we stuck it. We don't really deviate too much. A little bit maybe. We'll have a little bit of fun, but it's really pretty much right down that path. We're pretty true to that.
Yeah. So where does the choosing of songs, because this is all covers, right?
Right.
They're all covers. Okay. So where does the choosing of the songs come about? I know some bands are more like, well, you choose 5 songs, you kind of go from there. But I know there's a lot of bands, honestly, they have to go around the singer. Because you may want to be able to play something. Even when I was playing, when I was lead singer, there's certain bands I can't do.
Right.
And we just weren't able to play them. So how do you guys choose what you're going to do?
A lot of it, you're inspired to hear something. I really want to do that song, and some stuff you have to drop. We were doing for a while. It didn't really fit into it. But it was a 6 a.m. song. Life is beautiful, but it's a very complicated song for everybody to do. A lot of very overproduced, and as much as we love doing it, so sometimes you'll do stuff and you'll push the envelope a little bit, and it doesn't work, so you
gotta bring it back.
Yeah, you gotta rein it back in a
Right.
little bit, but you always gotta push it. You gotta try. That's all you can do.
Right.
That's about it. And sometimes you can surprise yourself. Didn't think you can do it. That's a lot of what we do. It's like, but
Are you choosing it for you, or are you choosing it for the audience? Because that's something
99% of it is just for us.
for you.
Yeah, and if you do that, you're true to it.
Right.
The fans are gonna go.
And that's and that's the thing that a lot of people, they don't want to go to shows to see the same songs over and over again.
Right.
And I noticed that a lot of groups out there, one thing that they are doing, and I know that I've been guilty of doing that because it's something that you got to throw them in,
Mm-hmm.
is the standards
Right.
of things that people want to hear. But I love the idea of just doing it for you.
Right.
You got to stay true to the music. But yeah, you want people to play, you want people to hear some of the standards, so at least they can get
Right.
into it. A lot of fans, though, if they don't know the songs, they'll back away. That's when they go for a smoke.
Right.
You got to bring them back in.
Right. You get a little bit on both sides. Some people you play stuff that's like you don't think they know it, and they're like, oh my god.
Right.
And they bring them in, now they become your hardcore fan because nobody else will do that stuff,
Yeah.
which has been really cool. It's like, I can't believe you played Crocus. Can't believe you played Loudness. Can't believe you played Kicks. When he plays Kicks. So that's been kind of a fun thing for us to do.
Oh, yeah. And I remember doing I was with a cover band in Chicago many years ago, and they said, okay, the one song we have to do, you can choose whatever songs you want to sing, but the one song we have to do is Dim by Dada. They were the ones, Dada was the ones who came out with that Disneyland song, I'm Going to Disneyland.
Okay.
They also came out with this other song called Dim.
Okay.
I've never heard of it.
Yeah.
And I was like, but nobody knows that song.
Right.
And they said, you'd be surprised.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, every single time we did a show, the only people that came up to me were like, I can't believe you played Dim.
Yeah, right.
It was just one of those deep cuts, one of those things that everybody enjoyed and everybody loved. But yeah, it was one of them that I've never heard of.
Right.
Have there been surprise songs for you that stood out? I mean, and I'll even bring it back to, from the Led Zeppelin days. Okay, Robert Plant wasn't a big fan of Stairway to Heaven.
Right.
And what Led Zeppelin used to do was they used to play the songs first before the album came out.
Right.
And there's this famous story that that they played Stairway to Heaven before the album came out, and nobody applauded afterwards. It was like and Robert Plant went to Jimmy Page and I told you that was garbage.
Right.
And then of course obviously what it turned out to be. But is there a song where somebody in your band was like, oh come on, that ain't gonna go well, and then all of a sudden it turns out to be like the song?
I can't think off the top of my head of that happening, but
yeah. There's just so many of those that pop up that that we've done over the years. And I know that you saw us play one time, and as a joke, and this was a joke. I don't know if you didn't know it was a joke or not, but as a joke, here we are playing Rush, and then we did a Led Zeppelin little medley, and then we went into Walking on Sunshine.
Yeah.
And I know I saw you smiling in the corner. You were out there, saw you smiling. I'm like, Mark, don't laugh at me, man. But it was one of those things that we did as a joke, and the reason we did it as a joke was because I wanted to do a quick song, but somebody had mentioned that.
Right.
Somebody had mentioned, let's do you got to do something we can dance to. Right. And I'm like, what, like Walking on Sunshine? And you're like, yeah. So it was only 4 chords, so it's not like we couldn't throw it together. It barely ever changes. So we did throw that together, and that song, along with What's Up, were the 2 cover songs that everybody just went crazy on and got into them.
You gotta mix it up.
Yeah.
Throw that oddball stuff in every once in a while.
Right. So now you have Lit Up, so you went through that, but then you were not a big fan of tribute bands in the beginning.
No, I wasn't gonna do tribute bands at all.
So then...
But they were just too
this
good.
Motley Crue situation came up.
Right. We played a party at my friend's house, and that was just too good. It's like, we got done. It's like, okay, I guess we're doing this. So we end up. It was just funny. We rehearsed, and then it just took off. Our first show, we was gonna do 3 or 4 shows. Small, not really promote them. Get our feet, get a ground, get it all kind of figured out, and ended up being we got a call from the Whiskey. It's like, hey, you want to play at the Whiskey? That was our first show.
Oh wow!
On a Monday night, and it just turned out phenomenal. But it was funny because we played. It was a Monday night, and I played Friday, Saturday, and then we played the Hideaway on Sunday. Played late, and I load PA. We got in the car, and on Monday we went to LA and played the Whiskey that night. So it was my 4th night of singing. So I'm a little bit paranoid. It's like, so it turned out pretty good for what it was, but it was packed. It was a really fun show. That's how we started off.
And that's amazing that you can do that people can do that. When I would do the shows on a Saturday night, I couldn't even talk the next day. It was just that. Well, so how is the Whiskey? I mean, and how did that come about? Like, how long were you guys actually practicing before you got the show?
Maybe a couple months, maybe.
And was this your first show?
That was our very first show.
Oh,
we debuted at the Whiskey on a Monday.
How many people can say?
Yeah, it was
their first show. They debuted at the Whiskey.
Yeah, and it was great because the opening band the band we were playing with, they were super cool guys. They play there on Monday night, and they said, "Don't worry, there's not gonna be a lot of people here." It's like, well, okay, and it was packed.
Wow.
and the promoter was like, "Whoa,"
Yeah.
And it was really good. But it was Motley Crue at the Whiskey, so
Oh, exactly.
that helped.
Right.
But it was a really good time. And then after that, we just really been fortunate to play Texas and New Mexico, and it really been taking off for us, and been really lucky with our project.
Is that the one that plays out the most right now?
No, Lit Up definitely plays
Lit
out
Up
the
is out
most,
more.
and Rock Addicts. In Rock Addicts, we've kind of tampered down. I think we're doing 9 shows a year now. So.
Oh, okay. And type of music for Rock Addicts?
Rock Addicts, we're doing classic rock and 80s kind of music. So.
Now you said it was a dual singer?
Right, yeah. We split up into 3 sets. I'll do like 6, 7 songs. Other guy got up in 6, 7 songs. With the concept being, you have one guy doing 80s stuff, and then another guy doing classic rock. That's kind of went away. We kind of do whatever, but it gives you a little bit different perspective.
Oh, sure. Okay. And then into the Black Crowes, which when we were talking before, it was like, I thought, well, that's an unusual band
Right.
to be doing. I haven't seen a lot of Black Crowes tribute bands, but I personally love Black Crowes.
Right.
Since the very beginning, since hearing that first album and seeing them when I didn't even know who they were, opening up for bands like Robert Plant and shows that I would see throughout Chicago, they seemed to be there all the time.
Right.
And I thought they were a great band, but never really thought of, hey, a tribute band to them. So
Right.
how did that particular one come about?
So, just at a party, a birthday party at the guy's house one night, and we were talking about Black Crowes albums, and I said, "Hey, did you guys ever heard the Lions album?" And they're like, "What?" And then that kind of started the ball rolling, and Noel was out there. He was he's a guitar player, phenomenal guitar player for both Motley Crue and for the Smoking Crows. A couple weeks went by, and they had a show set up at Joe's Grotto, and he asked me if it'd be possible for me to fill in. So we did it, and it was the same thing. It's like, wow, it just turned out really good. It kind of snowballed from there. And we was going to be a celebratory tribute to the band. We wasn't going to do the wig thing or any of that kind of look, but ended up being money talks. So, and we got some really good opportunities out of that too. Not as much, but it's just a really fun band that's really creatively was really fun to do.
And there's not a lot of you play a lot of guitar oriented rock. There's not a lot of synthesizers, backing tracks.
The only one that has is the Black Crow stuff has keys, which is really, really cool.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now, with all of these bands together that you have, do you find yourself in a situation to where you are opening up for yourselves with two different bands?
We've done that. Just only with the Smoke Crows and the Molly Crew because it's the same guys.
The tributes.
So we can do that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they don't really intermix. They're different entities, you know.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. So that's good. Yeah. Well, that works out great.
Right. If they all have their own.
Yeah. And then, so now that you're doing all of these shows, how often do you, because you're in so many bands, how often do you play out?
Pretty much 3 weekends a month. Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah, I think I'm usually doing 50-some shows a year.
And are these shows, and I think the one thing that people don't understand out here is when they go to a concert, it's an hour and a half show or it's a 2-hour show when they go to a concert.
Right.
Bands out here play for 4 hours
right.
at a time.
So funny story, we go back a couple weeks ago and we booked a show. You're so honored when people call and ask you to do shows. So we booked a show for a veterans benefit. It was at Harley Davidson, and it was going to be early in the morning. We played from 9 to 12. We actually cut it back a little bit, but later on we got a call to play the same day for Bike Week at the Hideaway. So it's like, can you do it? I'm like, oh man, we can't turn it down.
Right.
So we ended up setting up 2 different PAs. I set up my PA at one show. Our drummer set up a PA up at another show, and we did a show at the Harley Davidson in Scottsdale.
Mm-hmm.
Tore down PA and did another 4-hour show at the Hideaway. So 70-some songs in one day. Made it through. Pretty proud. Everybody did great, but not recommended.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work. It's like we're like
Right.
man, this is a dumb idea, but
Well, yeah, and when you think about it too,
it was fun.
if you're doing a 4-hour show, like a lot of times, now you do a lot of afternoon shows too, right?
Yeah, we'll do on 30 to 5:30s.
Okay, so you're still looking at a 4-hour show,
Mhm.
or it's going to be 8 to midnight or
Right.
something like that, depending on the venue that you're
Right.
playing. But for you, that ain't 4 hours. Like a lot of people, okay, you're going to be gone for 4 hours.
Oh no,
That's your day.
right? Because we play Hideaway, we'll play Roadhouse, and a lot of the places we bring our own. I'm setting up everything. We're setting up the show. We're setting up. We don't set up lighting no more, which is nice. A lot of venues have lights, but a lot of times we're setting up the whole sound system and tearing it down. So yeah.
So you're doing that?
Yeah.
Specifically?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah, we depending on the band, each one, except for the tribute bands are different.
Right.
The Deja Crew and Smoke Crow, we only play venues that have sound systems. But as far as Lit Up and the cover bands, so yeah, you're bringing it in and work with your band up.
Right.
And set the sound up yourself.
And and that's the one thing, because you've seen a lot of jokes about lead singers and bass players, right? And the problem is I happen to be both of them. So I get the brunt of all of the the jokes that are happening, right, between the bass player and the musician. But I do want to make sure that people realize the lead singer of the band is not somebody who just shows up 2 minutes before you're ready to sing and then bolts right afterwards.
Yeah, I won't speak for any of your band, but they're not in the ones I'm in. It's
Right.
been kind of something I took on.
Yeah. Now I will say that later, as I've been doing the music and the bands, I have been guilty of doing that myself, where I would show up only because the venues were already set up or the people were already set up. So I didn't have to be there. And so I know that I've done that in the past, but for the most part, when you're setting up the PA, when I was the guy setting up the PA or the recording equipment, you're talking about, you have a show at 8 o'clock, you got to be there at 5 o'clock.
Right, it's a lot.
And now you're working way past, midnight.
Sure.
When they talk about bands, how much they get paid, in my opinion, it's never enough. You hear a lot of the jokes, but the truth of the matter is that I think bands need to realize, for people like you and me, we do it because we love it.
Right.
And it's the enjoyment of the music and the enjoyment of bringing that music to the crowds.
Right.
Because would you say that seeing the crowd being into it has got to be one of the most rewarding things that
Oh,
you could be doing?
absolutely. I mean, we were doing shows with Rock Addicts up in casinos, and we were making great money, but it was one of the things where we were playing on Fridays and Saturday nights, and they were taking really good care of us, money-wise, everything, but there was no crowds there. And we did, after the third, fourth show, it's like no. You can't, you have to have, without people there, having a crowd there, there's no point in doing it.
Right.
Might as well mow lawns.
Yeah. Well, you got to have the satisfaction of
Right.
doing it. And I know that there are a lot of bands out there, a lot of musicians out there that do it strictly for the money, or do it, but there honestly is a lot of times where just to get the music out there and just to be able to play out there, you're going to do some shows for free.
Sure.
Have you wanted to ask you about this, because I don't know if you've ever done it before. Have you ever had to sell tickets to your shows?
Oh man, it's been a while. It's been quite a while. I mean, we're talking back to the 90s. Yeah, we opened for Warren at the Mason Jar and sold quite a bit. I think we did 6-7 songs.
Okay, yeah.
Didn't get really paid a lot, but place was packed, and so yeah, it's been quite a while since I had to sell tickets. Really.
Yeah, that's because I know that that's something that comes out a lot. The promoters, the way that a lot of them are doing now is where the term pay to play comes from.
Mm-hmm.
So musicians know the term pay to play.
Sure.
But a lot of people don't know the term pay to play. And whenever I see a band or a promoter coming up, I see a lot of bands that are paying to buy these tickets, and then they give them away.
Right.
Because, and I can see the point of doing that. And just so everybody understands what that is that the promoter of a show is going to get 4 or 5 bands together.
Sure.
They're going to give you 100 tickets. And those tickets are going to have a ticket price of, let's say, $12 each.
Sure.
You're going to sell them for $10. And you're going to give that $10 each. So you're going to give that $1,000 to the promoter.
Sure.
But the cost on there could be 12 or 14. You're keeping that extra.
Right.
So you're going to sell them for the full price, but you're actually buying them for $10 each. So, and I don't think people realize that. And I know that there have been many shows to where the bands end up paying that $1,000 to give to those promoters, and then they end up giving the tickets away, and then nobody shows up.
Right.
And I know that that's been a problem. But the promoters make their money, and that's how they do it. But it could be very lucrative for the band, because if you're selling 100 tickets, and you're selling them for $4 or $5 over the price, you can make $400 or $500 on it.
We've made really good. We've done really, really well. Just charging at the door.
Yeah.
Really well. So it depends on the venue too. I know we've looked at some venues and you want to play at, and then you start looking at you got to rent the venue, and you're paying for a sound guy, and you're paying for a door guy, and you're paying for security, and you're paying.
Right.
So when you start getting into that, it's like okay.
Right.
And
you rely on that door money.
Right.
I mean, that is how.
So you got to. I think the thing is, make sure when you go in, you know what the deal is. Get your upfront contract and be 100%. Get it in writing so that it. Sometimes you do. There's sometimes you do really well. There's other nights you go like, tell a promoter, you can see by the crowd you didn't pull.
Yeah.
So there's sometimes we pretty much almost refuse pay. There's venues. I won't get into it, but I know there's venues that begged us to play, and I said, I can't play at your venue because we're not going to draw anything. We said, this is our price. They paid it, and
Yeah.
And we did pull there for certain reasons, but
Sure.
But yeah, it was like that can happen. So you got to know where you belong, and
Right.
know your crowd, know the venues, and where you fit in, I guess.
Okay, so I'm going to throw a couple of things at you, and you tell me what. Well, you'll see. First of all, favorite area to play.
Oh, man, you know,
Could be anywhere. Could be Arizona. Could be California.
Well, I mean, for the most part, we're a West Side band, maybe with Lit Up and things like that. But that's pretty much it. I've been pretty much playing Glendale area in the West Valley for the most part. That's what we.
Okay. Indoor shows or outdoor shows?
Depends on the night. Yeah, it depends. The hard part about outdoor shows typically is it's open and it's hard to get a crowd's up to you. You know,
True.
Again, I love small venues. I love smaller, intimate venues where people are in your face. So I think that kind of weighs into that. But we've been playing Tucson at House of Bards, and it's a phenomenal venue. It's killer. You go out there, it's a phenomenal sound system, and it's really fun. So it just kind of depends on the venue and how it's set up.
For sure. All right, now here's one. Don't laugh at me for this one, but I got to ask it. Vince Neil or John Corabi?
Man, love Buzz. You gotta go with Vince though, man. What are you gonna do? I mean, I know because I do a lot of the songs, and I know he's not good now, and you go back to the stuff in the '80s, and we do the people say, oh, the guy can't sing. It's like if you don't think the guy couldn't sing, just go ahead and do everything off the Dr. Feelgood album.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had his thing, and he has a distinct voice, and it works. What are you gonna do? But I love John Corabi. We actually seen him do his acoustic thing here in downtown. He's a great dude.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And also, I think he got kind of the bad end of it because he's a great singer. Yeah. But being thrown into that is, was a tough one. So I certainly get that. All right, so here's the standard one. I think everyone asks this question. Sammy or Dave?
Oh man, they're equal, man. I love both. I know people hate Sammy, but I've seen Sammy so many times live, and it was killer, And I love Van Halen. Period. I mean that was my band. Van Halen is really what got me into rock. It really launched it when I watched the Jump video, and Eddie's just wearing the yellow jacket, and they're just smiling and having fun. That vibe, it was that between those guys, that video, and watching the guys in Tesla. It was just real, and that's always where I've kind of gravitated toward those Tesla and Van Halen in that area. But I love Sammy. I got all the Sammy stuff. I love Dave's stuff. They're just totally different animals, completely different things, and I think it was necessary for change though when it happened.
Oh yeah. Okay, so, we are coming to the end of it, but I appreciate you coming in again. Thank you for just being out there and getting that music out there to people, because that's something that's, it's hard to find bands that are going to stay together for one thing, and that are going to play the music that people want to hear, and also not only that they want to hear, but they're not going out and hearing the same songs over and over and over again, because at that point then it just becomes why go,
Right.
And I will say that the tribute thing that you're doing, 2 great bands to keep going. There's probably a whole ton of Led Zeppelin tribute bands out there that I've heard of and seen. There's Rush tribute bands out there. 2 of my favorite bands, Rush and Zeppelin.
It's a different animal there too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, yeah, it definitely is. It definitely is. But thank you for coming out here. Appreciate you spending the day with me, and look forward to maybe doing this again.
Right on.
When you join your 5th, 6th, and 7th band. And,
you just never know.
Yes, so we'll get out there and do it again. So thank you, Mark Johnson. Thank you for joining us. And please tune into the podcast and listen for more.
Peace.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for joining our Living in the Limelight podcast with your host, Anton Scholl. Please feel free to comment, like, follow, share, and subscribe. And also add us to your playlist on your favorite streaming sites. Thanks again for joining, and we'll talk to you again next week.